of Appeals. Today, the purpose of our hearing is application number 2023-034. This is a request for a reclassification from the A1 agriculture and R1 single-family residential districts to R2 two-family residential districts. The address of the property is 701 Rogers Street, Cary, Illinois. The PIN number is 19-28-330-015. The applicant is Fiction. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Just go by Tyson now.
Tyson?
Yes.
Tyson Siradsky.
Yes.
And the location is a 1.42 acre parcel located at the northwestern corner of Rogers Street and Willie Avenue in Algonquin Township. At this time, I would like to have the members of the board introduce themselves, as well as the township in which they reside, starting on my left.
Thomas Jers, Coral Township.
Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township.
Charlie Eldridge, Richmond Township.
I'm Linnea Kustra in Alden Township.
Vicki Gardner, Nunda Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated October 17, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed, and the date posted was October 16, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of mailing was signed, and date mailed was October 13, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. For everyone's benefit, just to let you know how this hearing works, the petitioner, well, before I even do that, anyone who thinks that they might want to speak today, whether you're going to give a comment, ask a question, present your own testimony, I would need to swear you in. So at this time, if you're even thinking about that you might want to speak, please raise your right hand, including the petitioner. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Sorry for that. I thought I... Right. Okay, so how the hearing works is that the petitioner will present their testimony to the board, what they'd like to do, why they'd want to do it, and then how it meets the standards for amendment in our ordinance. After that, they will be asked questions by the members of the board regarding their testimony, as well as members of the staff. Then if there's any member of the public that would like to ask a question regarding the testimony of the petition, you will have the opportunity to do so. You'll come up to this microphone on my right, you'll give your name and your address, and then you will be given 3 minutes to ask any question you would like that has to do with the testimony the petitioner gave. And then after everyone's had their opportunity to do that, then we will take testimony from the staff on their staff report. And after that time, if any member of the public has a comment, a statement they would like to give to the board, this is, not to the petitioner, but to the board, again, you'll have 3 minutes if you'd like to do that. And I ask that you not be repetitious. If somebody else had said the same thing, you can just say, I agree with so-and-so. But you'll have 3 minutes, and at that time, then we will close the hearing. So at this time, I will turn it over to the petitioner to present your case.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you very much for having us here. I am looking to reclassify the property at 701 Rogers Street from R1 to an R2 designation. It is not the only property in our subdivision that is classified like that. There is a property located at 1108 Isabel Drive, which is just east of the property that is designated as an R2. I'm looking to improve the property, and I believe that this will be one way of improving the property in the future.
Can you address the standards in our ordinance?
I'm sorry?
Can you address the standards in our ordinance for amendment?
Maybe Anna, you put them up on the screen.
And then members of the public
Let me see them.
as well as the petitioner. It would be on page 14 of the staff report you may have received.
The approval standards for map amendments,
Yes.
the compatibility of the proposed zoning with the existing use and zoning of nearby property. Those. I'm sorry.
You need to say, address why you think it's compatible with the existing use and zoning of the property.
Yeah, so the size of the property, it is sizable, is 1.42 acres. The house itself is 2,000 square feet, 2,000 square feet, and there is already another residence in the area that has the R2 designation. So we believe that our property is similar size. It would be compatible with the residences in the area.
Okay, you can move on down to, all those you need to address. So you just move down the list.
So we don't believe that, or I don't believe that the property value is diminished by the existing zoning. I believe that it can be increased with the designation of R2. So with the existing zoning, the property is a single-family residence. It does not impede with wildlife, or it doesn't propose a hazard of any kind. So the relative gain to the public. So it is an investment property. I am looking to expand on the property, improve on the property. I am looking at the future benefit of it, and possibly even using it as a rental property. So it wouldn't be a hardship, but it would prevent me from utilizing it, I guess, to the full extent that I can. The property is very sizable. The property is pretty much, it could be considered like a two-level property. There's the top floor, I guess the second floor, then there's the first floor. They have separate entrances. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be too hard to separate that, so the first floor is a separate dwelling. Also the garage is very large. There's a 4-car garage. And then we're also doing some work on the driveway, so there'll be ample parking for anybody that would be at the residence. The property has never been vacant. So under G, we know that there is a shortage of rental properties in the area. This would be one way that we can at least help alleviate at least one family, with the availability of a rental unit. And we believe that the property would abide with all of the, it would be consistent with the McHenry County 2030 and beyond comprehensive plan. So I believe that it would match it.
Okay, I'll turn it over for questions, starting on my left with Mr. Jers.
This colored diagram map that we see here, I guess it's page, well, it says on the bottom, it's page 14 of 17. That one. There's a street adjacent to your property, or there's a lot.
Tom, do you have your microphone on?
Okay. Yeah, the green area, is this better? No.
There, no.
Is this working?
No.
It is? Okay, there we are. That green area to the left of your property, it says Bryan Court. I haven't been out to look at it, I apologize for kind of asking the obvious, but are those 4-unit buildings adjacent to you on Bryan Court?
Yes, that's fine.
So the ones in Bryan Court, that would be part of the Algonquin Village.
This is the 4 units.
Those are 4-unit buildings.
That's right.
Sir, if there's another person going to speak, you need to identify yourself with your address too.
Okay. So what you're telling me is right off your fence row, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, half a dozen 4-unit buildings.
Yes.
Okay. Do you occupy the property or is it rented?
It is rented by my parents at this time.
Okay. And how many square feet is that house?
2,000.
And you want to make it an upper unit and a lower unit? Is that your intent?
Yes.
What kind of utilities you got servicing that lot?
So
Is it on private well and private septic? Or do you have municipal sewer and water?
So we have a public water and a public septic system.
And it's a private sector.
Private septic system.
It's on private septic. Okay. So have you done any inquiries with the staff, McHenry County Health Department? You got enough septic for 2 units?
So maybe I can refer to my dad in a lot of these matters. I know that.
You know, that's,
If that's okay.
our deal here is land use, and that gallonage is more technical than our pay scale. Okay. And I'm sure if you're going to do this, you're going to consult with McHenry County and get the proper permits.
Absolutely.
And this Rogers Street, is that an improved street? Is it asphalt?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
If your father's going to speak, maybe he wants to just identify himself, and then, did you raise your hand and get sworn in, sir?
Yeah, you did.
You did.
No worries, man. Hi, my name is Adam Skorpad. I'm a stepfather to TJ Tyson, and I reside at the 701 Rogers Street at this time.
Okay, so then if you're answering questions and you change, if it's not going to be just one person, you'll need to identify yourself, because this is being recorded so they know who's actually speaking. Otherwise, if we can stay with one, that's excellent. So, but it's up to you. Okay, Mr. Cozen.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. How long have you owned the property, or your family has owned the property?
The property has been owned for a little over 8 years.
Would you know who maintains Rogers Street?
I believe it's the McHenry County, the Algonquin Township.
And approximately how old is the residence?
I believe it was constructed in the 70s.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Eldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So your present plan for the property is to divide into a unit on the first floor and a unit on the second floor, is that correct?
So if I can expand a little bit on my answer.
Please do.
So I don't have a plan that's set in stone. We may be adding an addition to the bottom area of the residence to expand it a little bit. But the most clear plan would be to separate those 2 floors.
But you do not intend a second freestanding home on the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's my only question.
Ms. Gardner.
Thank you. Now, you said that there's already two separate entrances for this building, this residence?
That's correct.
Is one upstairs and one's downstairs?
Yes.
So there's a stairway leading up to the upstairs entrance?
No, so there is a long driveway that's on this, that would lead, there's a, yeah, and if you just keep going west on Roger Street, there's a long driveway that goes up, and there's a separate door.
I'm sorry, may I answer the question?
Yes, and your name again, please?
Adam Skorpad, I'm the father. Yes, there is, currently there is a staircase that creates access from the lower level to the second level.
Okay.
But there was two entrance and exits on the lower level, and there was two entrance and exits on the second level. So there was only one staircase that connects the first level from to the second level.
Okay, so in order to get to the second level, you go in at the street level, go up the stairs, and you're there.
No, you could, there's four entry points into the home. So you could enter and exit 4 different ways to the house from the outside, and there's only one staircase that connects the first floor to the second floor.
Okay. So your plan is to keep those entrances and exits and work the inside so that it's 2 separate units?
That's correct.
Is there currently a kitchen and bathrooms and so forth upstairs?
Yes.
So you have 2 kitchens, one downstairs and one upstairs?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that. The downstairs, not having seen the house myself, is it a converted basement? Is it a slab-on first floor construction? Is it above ground or below ground, this first floor?
May I answer? Hi. Yes, it's slab-on, and it's partial. It's partial walkout, so a third of the lower level it is underground, and 2/3 is above ground because of the slope of the property. Yes.
Would this be similar to a raised ranch style construction?
Yes, it could be looked at that way, but the way they chose to build the low level, it created that we have, like I said, 2/3 of an exposed low level and only partial.
Pretty familiar with raised ranches. Would the furnace, the water heater, main utilities be on the lower level, say in a furnace closet or something similar?
Well, yes, at this time it's there was a utility room for utilities, and that is a single utility at this point, and whatever is going to be required of us to convert it into a 2-unit, we'll deal with the building department from McLean County.
Next question. Describe the bathrooms that are in the house right now, please.
Yes, there are 2 full bathrooms in the house. One is on a first level and one is on a second level. They were existing at the purchase of the property. And there was also a kitchen on a lower level and a kitchen on a second level that was existing. Though it was remodeled with new cabinetry, but there were already existing plumbing and electrical that it was required to run kitchen and bathrooms.
So downstairs level has a kitchen and a bathroom. Are there any other rooms down there besides the mechanical room?
Yes, there was a laundry room next to the mechanical room, and there was 2 bedrooms and 2 closets.
Okay. Do you think the house was built that way originally?
We're not sure. We only could go by what we saw at the time of purchase and pictures that show when the realtor put that property on the market, and it was just that's what it was there. And
okay. My next question is how many bedrooms are upstairs?
there's currently 2 bedrooms.
So 4 total bedrooms. the house, I'm going to guess, was probably built originally as potentially a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. A lot of raised ranches have 2 or 3 upstairs and 1 downstairs, and then they had a little family room area. What I'm trying to get at here, if the house was built in 1970, it's very typical. It's a requirement in the county. It goes back at least from the early 1990s when I built my house. I was unincorporated McHenry County. Septic system is designed for a specific number of bedrooms. I don't know how much you thought about that aspect. It's very easy to overload an older septic system that's not designed for two families, in my opinion, especially if you're going to be bringing kids in, 2 families with kids, for example. There could be problems with that. I would imagine if you do get approval for this, my guess is that your septic system, if it's looked at, will be undersized and would need to be expanded, is my guess. A pretty educated guess, by the way. You may find out you might be better off building that ancillary, smaller place, say, next door, and putting its own septic system in. It just as an aside, as a thought on that. That's as much as I'm going to push this matter at the moment, and I'll defer to my colleague, please. Thank you.
Who knows how to push as well. I'm sorry. I also have notes that say you said in the 70s. In 1979, the land use plans changed. So septics got a different standard. So if it was done earlier than that, you got to check it out. And after that, to make sure that you're set for the number of houses that you have. We built a house in 79, and they told us that if we had to have a certain amount of area to replace it, and was I willing to take the chance because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and 45 years later, it's still there and still working fine, so it may be okay. But if you have 2 unrelated families living in that one dwelling, then my question to you is, is there anybody living upstairs now since you purchased it?
Well, currently there's 2 people occupying the home, me and my wife.
Okay.
For the last 8 years. So, yes, it's the septic issue is also something we already looked into, and we are well aware that we will have to upgrade the septic system to accommodate the 2-family dwelling.
So in effect, you're making this a duplex up and down as opposed to next to each other?
That's correct.
Because in your application, I thought I read that one of the reasons you wanted the zoning one of the reasons you asked for the zoning you asked for is that there were 2 vacated easements or parts of easements on the property, and that makes some sense. But that's a lot of money to spend to just fix that vacated part to be part of the property as well. So if you did it all to R1, nobody could say anything about what you're doing except that you've got a 2nd story. I know people who have had 3-story houses and they've had full kitchen facilities on all 3 levels at some point. But I'm not sure what those requirements are under that kind of zoning, so I'm just a little concerned. At the vacated easements, why do you want to do this? Some people got to this before I did, so, to ask my questions. But it is your intention to rent out the 2nd unit. Will you still be living in the 1st unit on the downstairs?
Me as a renter, we're going to be occupying that 1 unit, and then potentially the 2nd available unit will be rented out, yes.
Okay, and you are...
I'm the father.
I got that part. But when you say you're the renter, who owns the property?
I do.
Young man, how nice for you to take care of your family. One way or the other, as best as we can do. Okay, I think at the moment I'm done with my questions.
I have a few questions. It looks like this was originally like 4 lots in this subdivision. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And so this home was built on like basically one lot, and the garage was built on one lot. So that's why you have such a much bigger lot than the other homes in the area. And it looks like it really has a steep slope at the back of your lot down to Woods Creek. And a lot of that is hydric soils. So not so easy for a septic in the back part of your property that slopes down to the creek, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We looked at a above ground septic.
Could you speak into it a little louder?
We looked into a system of a septic that would be above ground, that would utilize a pump that would be pumped into the previous lot 1 area. So that's where the new septic field will be located.
So that's where the new septic will be located in
That's
Lot
correct.
1?
Yes, and that would be sufficient area to accommodate the upgraded septic field.
Okay. I think that was my only real question, was that lot. So, can you tell me, like you said on Isabel Street, there's a multifamily. Can you, I don't know, I don't see Isabel Street anywhere.
So it is
How
located.
far away is that from you?
So it's just east of the intersection of Pite Road and Algonquin. If you look at page number 15, Isabel Avenue.
Okay, I'm looking at page 15.
If you look east, it's right next to Dennis Avenue, between
Oh,
Dennis
I
and
see
Armstrong.
Isabel. Okay, all right, so I see where it is. Okay. All right, does staff have any questions?
As I recall, I think you said that the entire building is about 2,000 square feet, is that correct?
Correct.
So, would it be correct that it's evenly divided in terms of square footage on each floor? So each floor would have about 1,000 square feet?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's the questions I have.
Okay, I only have one other question. On the aerial view on the front page, is that like the white in front of the house? Is that like a tree, or is that rocks, or I did not visit the site. I just wonder what that is on the aerial view of your property.
Yeah, this is just a pile of construction rocks.
So are you operating a construction site from here?
No, there was some work done on the driveway. This is just where the rocks were stored until they were removed.
Okay, but there's no business being operated on this property?
No.
All right, at this time, any member of the public that would like to ask a question about the testimony, you're able to do so. So come on up to the microphone.
Thank you for letting us be a part of the appeal process. My name is Rachel Zastro from Algonquin.
Can you give me your street address?
Rachel Zastro, 5708 Roger Street in Algonquin.
Thank you.
So my first question is, how large was the property when you purchased it?
The property was, before acquiring the additional plots, it was about 1,400 square feet.
The acreage of the lots?
Sure.
Yeah, but you need to identify yourself that you're...
Hi, my name is Adam Scorpio. The property lot original size, I believe, was under an acre, and then eventually, after vacating the two roadways adjacent to the property, it became to 1.4 acre property size.
How did you come to have the acreage that you have now? Can you talk a little bit about the process of obtaining approval to vacate the roads?
Yes, we had to file an application through Algonquin Township. They informed the residents, and we had to gather signatures, and then it was approved through the road district commissioner for the vacating of the roadways.
How many neighbors had to sign off for you to, for Algonquin Township to allow the vacating of the road?
I believe, if I remember correctly, it was around 24, 25 neighbors.
Did you disclose to anyone you asked to sign that, that permission that you would seek rezoning when you were seeking their approval to vacate those roadways?
We have not asked anyone the question in regards to rezoning because that was not part of the initial.
And he's not required to do that.
I understand that. I'm just saying that the property initially was actually under an acre, which does not meet the requirements for the R2 zoning, and it required the permission of his neighbors who are here in opposition to obtain that amount of acreage. So I just wanted to point out that that
You can do that in comments.
Yes. Okay, that's why I asked this question.
Yes, it was not. We didn't have a plan to rezone that property at the time. We were just trying to utilize our option to vacate the two unused roadways that were never built. They were in the plans, but they were never actually built and utilized. So we just figured if we had an option, we just acquired those extra area.
Okay, does anyone else in the public have a question?
Hi, I'm Molly Pack. I live at 807 Nevin Street, which is right down the way from it. I was wondering, which septic place did you talk to about getting a new septic system? Because we're the ones that just got a whole brand new septic system. And when we went to McHenry County, when we went to you guys, you said no other septic system will ever be built in this area again. Because there's something with the ground. And I can't remember for the life of me. I've asked my husband. He said there was something wrong with the ground, that it's too full or something. And Stanley Helmer, who did our septic.
Well, let him answer the question.
Oh, wait, sorry.
You just wanted to know who he worked with.
Right.
Yeah. You're asking a question right now.
Oh, okay. So who did you work with? Who did you find out that you can build another septic system?
Well, at this time, we discussed the options with the department. I believe it was a few months ago when we were initially thinking about rezoning, and we had an option to do above ground septic. And I believe the property that you live in, I believe it's much lower in elevation than where we are.
Right. And it's smaller.
Yes. So that's just my opinion, but maybe if the elevation of your property is so much lower and it's sometimes, I believe in the past it flooded. I'm not sure if your property did or not, but that may be one of the reasons why that you were told that you won't be able to have, nobody else will be able to have a new septic system. But,
right.
But I don't believe that there is that someone needs to replace their septic system or field, that they're going to not let you, because if the septic system fails, you have to repair it and you have to replace it.
Right. But
I think maybe we can get staff to clarify this, maybe,
okay.
you know, so maybe Anna, you can clarify, you know, the health department and get them getting a septic. They would have to have a septic approval before they could do this. Would that be correct?
So the process for what we're trying to achieve today, we are looking at whether the overall use of two residences is an acceptable use in this area. That is what R2 would allow. After a use has been, or potential use has been established through zoning, then building permits are applied for any improvements. It is during that stage that the concerns relative to the septic system, the water systems, the environmental issues All of those are explored for compliance with our specific rules and regulations in each of those areas. If those standards and rules can be met, then a building permit is issued. Not every building permit is issued because of issues cannot be resolved. So today, while it's good to know that there's potential septic issues here, I think that this board is focusing a little too heavily on that issue today.
So our issue is just the land use.
That
And
is
then it
correct.
goes to the health
Okay,
department.
so when he, okay, I just have one more question. So when you dig into the, because that area is very hilly, his hill, like, this is a hill, this is a hill or something, and he's dug into it. So I was wondering, are you planning on digging into that hill more? Removing some more top stream? Where you dug into it?
Oh, the hill that used
Where?
to be part of Roger Street?
Right, this hill right here.
This is
There
your
was
last
no hill there,
question.
ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, I didn't mean that.
The hill, if you're referring to the hill that used to be the part of the Roger Street, no, that's already graded and just waiting to be finished with vegetation and gravel. But if you look behind the property, if you look to the left of the property, there was flat, the lot 1 area, it's pretty much a flat area until it gets to that creek area. Then it drops off into the creek.
Does anyone else have a question? Yes, come on.
Hello, board. My name is Scott Zestro. I live at 570 Roger Street. I just have a question for the homeowner. My question is, has the homeowner ever had a history of non-compliance with planning and development codes, ever received any fines, or had any other problems with planning and development?
Yes, there was a couple instances that we had to pay a fine for work that was begun prior of applying for a permit, and then that was all paid and taken care of, and all the permits are up to date, and everything is done as required by the county.
Is there any way that you can expound a little bit more upon how many fines that you've received, or how long the previous
We have a record of his violations in the.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact amount of fines, but there were most likely under $1,000 altogether, I believe. I can't be sure. I don't have that, but all that was rectified and everything's up to date. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was.
Sure. And Anna, you can clarify, it looks like everything has been closed. There were 2 violations and they've been closed.
There was a stormwater violation for work without a permit. There was a violation of the Unified Development Ordinance in relationship to keeping chickens on the property. It's my understanding from reading the notes of the file that those chickens have been removed, or at least they're at a level that's acceptable per code. So both of those are closed cases at this point.
Okay, and so with that, I would ask you to officially give us the rest of your report.
Certainly. Okay, for the record, my name is Anna Kurtzman. I'm a senior planner here. I've put up onto the board here the zoning record for this area. As you can see, the property in question outlined in pink there actually consists of 2 different zoning classifications. Most of it is R1. There is a little bit to the south, a little bit to the north. That is A1. That happened when the Rogers Road and Craig Road to the north there were vacated. When land is either vacated or is de-annexed, if it was not assigned a zoning classification at the time the zoning map was created, when it comes into our jurisdiction, it defaults to A1. So that's why you see the A1s to the north and to the south there. The rest of the zoning in the area there immediately adjacent is all R1 except for the property to the west there, which is incorporated. And looking at the area there, it appears that it may be a cluster type design with townhomes being allowed to the southwest there. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge in terms of the potential of surrounding land uses. We have a number of single-family houses that are immediately in the area there. You also have your townhomes, like I mentioned, and some commercial development to the northwest. The gray on the map there, that is undeveloped property. Future land use is showing this area as developing as residential. It does not differentiate in terms of whether that means R1 or R2 or R3 estate. Any of those could potentially be a residential in this area here. In my report, I did indicate that there was the potential of using the property as currently zoned, R1, for two residences. My thought process being that there was a potential for a ancillary dwelling unit. An ancillary dwelling unit does require a maximum of 900 square feet, no more than 2 bedrooms. So with the testimony today, the ancillary dwelling unit does not seem to be an option after all. Staff does not have any objection to the requested rezoning.
Does anyone have questions? Go ahead, Mr. Kozar.
I yield to my more senior member.
Mr. Aldridge.
Okay, just a couple of questions, Anna. One, it appears that the vacated right-of-way to the south is entirely in the parcel in question, and the one to the north is half in the parcel in question and half apparently to the people further to the north. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then back to an ancillary dwelling unit, R1, they could get the right to do an ancillary dwelling unit in R1 of up to 900 square feet. So by a little massaging of the space, and I rather suspect, in spite of the testimony, that the petitioner doesn't know exactly how many square feet are in. If he kept it under 900, down to 900 square feet or less, he would be able to do that of right in R1. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what he would not be able to do is have 2 townhomes on the property or 2 separate homes on the property.
That is correct.
But what he's doing, essentially, he could do of right in R1 as well as in R2. As long as he kept the 1 to 900.
If he's keeping the 1 unit to 900 square feet or less, then yes. I just remembered that the other caveat for an ancillary is that the owner does need to reside on the property. Okay. So if the owner is not residing on the property, then the ancillary is also not an option.
Okay. But it is something with a bit of massaging. So
with some massaging, it's
probably possible.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, if we can go back to this vacation just to parse it out a bit. So according to the plan survey, this subdivision was created in 1953, as was the 2 right-of-ways. However, neither right-of-way was used for well over 40 years and sat vacant for all intents and purposes. And that would also then lead one to the conclusion that no property tax, since these were reserved right-of-ways, was paid by any one of those parcels.
So right-of-way is owned by the township in this case. So the township does not pay taxes.
So when these properties now are of the present owner, that means the present owner is inclusive in the property bill for their properties.
That is correct.
So that is their parcels.
That is now part of their parcel. They are now taxed, or should be taxed as part
And
of
the
that.
allocation of the property, would you know, is this something that is done by statute, or is this just a general practice unique to McHenry County? The allocation of vacated right-of-ways.
Okay, so vacated right-of-way is state statute as to how that is handled. It is, the applicant was correct that you make a application to the township. You draw up your plat survey saying this is what is requested to be vacated. Typically, the vacation is split so that half of the right-of-way goes to whoever is on one side of the right-of-way, the other half goes to whoever owns on the other side. It is possible that an entire right-of-way is essentially purchased as part of that vacation process.
Right, but 1953, it's a bit murky for all of us to find out who got what from former Rogers Street, I would take it. And so.
So Rogers Street would have been a right-of-way all the way across.
Right.
Nobody would have paid for that right-of-way. It would have been donated or dedicated as part of the subdivision.
But as the applicant testified, the property to the west is in the village of Algonquin, which by its land use of multifamily homes made no reservation for the extension of Rogers Street into the subdivision.
That is apparent, yes.
And then along that same line, did the village of Algonquin or did the village of Lake Hills express any opinion on this? And also, one part of this petition is to rezone property that came to the county as A1 to some other zoning district?
So, like I explained, it automatically comes as A1. So until such time as we receive a application for rezoning, it remains A1.
So would it be fair to characterize that the applicant is helping the county clean up a zoning map?
That could be one way of looking at it.
I have no further questions.
Anyone else? Ms. Donner?
Okay, I'm trying to put this in order for myself. If we keep one building, it's 2 stories.
You're asking staff, correct?
I'm asking staff. Yes, I am. I have 2 stories, one on the top, one on the bottom. That building stays the same, whether or not it's R1 or R2. Has to be, doesn't it? I mean, if it's already 2 stories and you're doing it, doesn't it have to stay that way, or it can revert back to a single-family home with an ancillary? Because if we have 2 buildings, that ancillary building would be a 3rd unit, because there's already 2 there. It's not like they're changing anything around.
So ancillary, you can only have 2 dwellings maximum on the R1 or the R2, okay? That's my understanding of our code. The second story, whether it is converted to a ancillary, whether it becomes a separate dwelling unit, it would need to meet the building codes for 2 residences. So they will need to address those if this zoning is, well, they would have to address that if they're going to convert it to 2 units.
Okay, would they have to be separately metered for gas?
That would be a building division, that would be something at the time of building permit application.
And just for kicks, would they need a separate septic for a separate building?
That would be the health division that would have to address that. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, at this time, we will take statements from the public. If you have a comment, you will have 3 minutes. Again, please identify yourself, and I'll just use my phone, and we'll put in a 3-minute time.
Okay, don't start till I say go. All right, come on. Go. Rachel Zastrow, 5708 Rogers Street. So we are obviously here today to express our opposition from rezoning this property from R1 to R2. Several of you mentioned that you hadn't been out to see the property, so I did want to share some things that may be applicable to the zoning statute. For one, our roads are narrow, they're undivided, and there's limited space for off-street parking. There's no sidewalks or curbs, in contrast to the incorporated area that has multiple dwellings that's up the hill. So there's nothing to accommodate that kind of infrastructure. The sharp turn at the top of this hill, combined with the narrow streets at this property in particular, are already problematic for garbage trucks, delivery trucks, snow plows, school buses. We already went through the fact that there's a lot of annexed land that was originally slated to be developed as roads, which I think supports the assertion that infrastructure in this neighborhood would be impacted. The other thing I wanted to point out was that water drainage in the neighborhood has faced significant disruption since the beginning of construction of this property in 2018. And I have some photos that I will hand to the board members after this that show some of that damage that continues to negatively affect neighbors downstream from this house. There are no other properties in this neighborhood that are zoned R2. It's not precedented, and I think it should be rejected on that basis alone. And the planning and development report actually said the proposed reclassification is inconsistent with surrounding single-family residential uses. I also believe that there is a hardship to the public that could be assumed, and the owner himself stated today in this hearing that there would not be he would not have a hardship if the amendment was denied. So I think taking that all into consideration, that all leads into rezoning is really not necessary, and I don't think should be permitted. The other thing we wanted to bring up was that we have a substantial tax burden in our neighborhood related to the formation of a special service area for our water infrastructure, because we are unincorporated McHenry County, but we're in the village of Lake in the Hills, and our water is administered by the village of Lake in the Hills. So we have a very high tax burden that if we subdivide and we get the R2, there's another family living there, and then they are not actually contributing to our SSA the way that other homeowners in the neighborhood already do. We mentioned the annexation and the violations. You all have a record of all of that. But I think if you look at the timeline and you look at the photos that I will share, that there's a clear pattern on the part of the homeowner of willfully and repeatedly violating codes and regulations, extensively delaying projects, and failing to respond in a timely fashion. Our neighbors have multiple anecdotes of actions on the part of the occupants and owner that resulted in damage to other property, but we've only presented formally documented actions for the purposes of this appeal. Do you want to read another 3 minutes? It's just the last paragraph.
Hello, Scott Zastrow, 5708 Rogers Street. In short, the zoning change request would benefit one person at the expense of the entire surrounding community, and it requires an unwarranted atypical rezoning. Per FOIA request, no R1 to R2 zoning changes have been granted in the past 5 years. It is not in concert with current zoning in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood lacks infrastructure to support additional structures or residents. We have provided ample objective rationales to warrant rejection of their zoning request. But if this decision falls onto gray area, please consider the history of non-compliance on the part of the homeowner and the toll that another 5 to 10 years of intense disruption would take on the small community. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
My name is Margie Heinke. I live at 701 Roger Street for the last 52 years. I'm directly across from that home. I do have a lot of pictures that relate to the issues we're talking about. I would like to address Adam, Mr. Skolpak.
You're addressing the board at this time.
Okay. My question is,
And yours is a comment.
my comment is, all of this damages that we've been putting up with and the damage that's here and the past construction that's been going on, we have made numerous requests to building and zoning about permits. We've never once seen a permit posted ever on the property. And that's just like what I'd like to say. And I hope you take into consideration the photos. I have photos, Rachel has them in the packet, but I have additional ones. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment?
Hi, Alan Heinke, 702 Roger Street. I've lived there 52 years, and we were probably the oldest ones in the neighborhood. And I live right across the street from 701, and 701, the people who built our house were the ones that owned 701. So, and we moved in 72. So I'm just contemplating that I think around 68 their house was built. And the septic system hasn't been changed. And it, without a doubt, in my estimation, would never hold another family.
I am Molly Pack. Hi. Mr. Eldridge, you asked if the homeowner was going to live there, right? The homeowner was going to live there. That means this young man, right? He does not live there. He's a Lake in the Hills police officer, upstanding, but he does not live there. He rents it to his father and his mom, stepfather and his mom. So I'm just saying, whatever changes or whatever thing you asked, he has to live there. He does not live there. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Do you have a closing statement, sir?
We understand our neighbors have concerns. Unfortunately, not everything in our history has been peaceful over the years. I know the last few years have been hard for a variety of reasons for people. All we're asking everyone here to do is just to consider our application, be objective in how you find whether or not you will approve it, and we just really appreciate you guys' time for allowing us to come here. Thank you.
So at this time, the hearing is closed and we will move on to the voting portion of this meeting. So again, this is on petition number 2023-034, a reclassification from A1 agriculture and R1 single-family residential districts to R2 two-family residential district. The address is 701 Rogers Street. It's 1.42 acres, located at the northwestern corner of Rogers Street and Willie Avenue in Algonquin Township. The PIN number is 19-28-330-015. At this time, I would entertain a motion for...
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the petition.
Moved by Mr.
I'll
Eldridge.
second Charlie's motion.
Seconded by Mr. Jers. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes, this is a request to rezone from A1 and R1 to R2, a parcel that has been subdivided into 4 lots plus some vacated right-of-way for roads that were originally platted, I gather, in the 1950s and never used as a road. In Algonquin Township, it is adjacent to the village of Algonquin on one side and is pretty much otherwise surrounded by residential uses that have been in place for many years, 40, 50 years. It is a parcel that is apparently a somewhat awkward parcel in that it has some steep grades on it. It has at least some scrub woodlands on it. Right now, there's a garage and a two-story single-family home that, based on the testimony, probably has been used as a two-family home legally or illegally at various times in the past. While there is no new exterior construction proposed as part of the petition, although almost certainly either a new or an upgraded septic will be required to get a permit for the second dwelling unit. With modest changes from what he's presently proposing, a petitioner probably could do what he wishes to do, or very close to what he wishes to do, of right in R1. With regard to changing the zoning of the A1 portion, I think there's no question. It shouldn't be A1, it should be something else, and that something else in this location should be a residential district. A R2 district, frankly, my view, listening to the very sincere objectors, is taken into consideration, but from what I've heard, I think that they are concerned that these people have been bad neighbors in the past, rather than addressing their concerns to a second dwelling unit, because this parcel could quite simply be divided into two R1 parcels if somebody wanted to have a second freestanding home on the property. It's quite large enough, and there pretty clearly is enough room to do that. As I've said, by seeking an ancillary dwelling unit, they couldn't do exactly what they are proposing, but they could do something pretty similar as right in R1. I do not view R2 as very different than R1. And I do not view R2 here as making any significant changes in the neighborhood. I do not believe it will place a stress on any infrastructure that's there that isn't already in place. One more family, which several other ways could be put on this property. In any case, simply is not going to affect the characteristics of the neighborhood. I think it is absolutely true that some of these older, unincorporated neighborhoods were not particularly well designed in the first place, and that has created lots of drainage and other problems that now 40 or 50 or 60 years on are causing problems for people in the neighborhood. And perhaps petitioner has added to those, at least to some extent, but that frankly is not a matter before the zoning board. For all of, I believe that the standards have been met, and for all of these reasons, I am going to support the petition.
We'll just go down or I'll just go down my page. Ms. Gardner.
Thank you. I do agree with Mr. Eldridge. The problems that were brought up in opposition to this petition do not seem to me to really be impacted by another family living on this property. I don't see that that's going to cause problems with narrow roads or no sidewalks or the garbage truck making the turn. It doesn't make any sense to me that that's going to make a difference if there's another family living there. In fact, there are a number of vacant properties in this neighborhood that could at any time be developed.
It can't be.
I'm sorry, you can't talk now. It's my turn. You can't say never. If there's vacant property, sooner or later, it could be developed. As Mr. Eldridge said, this property probably was used by two families in the past and without any problems, and probably will be able to go on with two families in the future. And the petitioner is here to, cross all the T's and dot all the I's and get everything straightened out and make sure that there's a good septic system and there's no flooding involved and that the neighbors are as happy as can be. I'm sorry that there has been problems with the neighbors, and I would encourage the petitioner to be as good a neighbor and as friendly and sweet as possible. But I am in favor of this.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I must commend the presentation by the adjoining property owners of this subdivision. The issues that they bring forward are certainly worth our time, but they do not encompass the standards as I read them and have heard the applicant address them under the County Uniform Development Ordinance for a map amendment. Nor does the vacation and the rezoning necessary by the vacation unduly benefit either the applicant. If anything, it in some tangential way benefits the overall property owners by bringing two parcels onto the tax rolls. As to the zoning label, it is in somewhat lighter note that we're struggling with what is a ancillary dwelling unit or an accessory dwelling unit or an ADU is probably one of the more contemporary subjects that we are in the planning and zoning world dealing with. Yet in my youth, and now too distant, I am reminded of the Cunningham household where Fonzie lived above the garage for a number of years in that secondary dwelling unit, much to the benefit of all concerned. That isn't to make light of the concerns, but rather to say that it is an issue that requires good neighbors overall, and I will support this petition.
Mr. Jers.
Thank you, Linnea. I'm always delighted when I get to speak after Charlie Eldridge, because he hits every point just perfectly. And if he wasn't here, I would really, really miss him. I only want to say I concur with everything that Mr. Eldridge said. I don't think I need to waste any more time saying it. He nailed it. Thank you. I'll be in favor of it.
Ms. Donner.
Oh, I'm doing my listening session, and I'm going to be voting for it for all the reasons we've talked about. It's really hard when you live someplace. There are things that we have to look at that aren't as visible as you see them. So there are some things we have to work out different ways, but land use for R1 to R2 is just not that kind of a deal. I was concerned to begin with, but when it's already there and it's bottom to top and they're not adding anything to it, there's no reason to do that. R2 would be just fine.
And I agree with my colleagues. I think the land use plan supports this change. This should still be, oh my gosh, I forgot. Mr. Schnabel, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, I'm going to be the life of the party today. Now we're on. I'm going to have to say that the A1 zoning definitely needs to go away. However, in light of that fact, listening to all the comments that have been made here, I think for me, if we were voting to make the whole thing R1, I would definitely vote for R1, of course. R2, I'm not going to support, so thank you.
Sorry for that, Mr. Schnabel. I'm going to do the table next time. I'm not going to do down the list. So I will say that I'm going to support this change. I believe it's consistent with the land use plan. It's still residential. And really just the size of this lot and the fact that it could be two R1 lots if the owner chose to do that and still have two homes. So for all the reasons that have been mentioned and those reasons, I'll be in favor of the request. So I will call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gartner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
No.
Ms. Donner?
Yes.
Mr. Jers?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So this will go to the county board with a 6-1 vote approving. At this time, closed.
We thank you.